evening, everyone. This is my video response to William's latest video on asset protection and how to protect your assets if you're going to get divorced. Here we go.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, that's better. Today I want to talk to you about another important subject. It's called child support. And it can really destroy your life. And it's really unfair in many states in the United States. Okay, some states are fair, others are super crazy. For example, Virginia, they always take the wife or the woman's side. It's just super crazy. They don't care what happened. The kid always goes to the wife no matter what. And you're going to pay a lot of money. So today I'm going to tell you how to escape the United States or your country and not have to pay unconstitutional fee called child support anymore, okay?
Alright, I don't know about child support being unconstitutional, but the government reserves the right to make your life miserable no matter if it's in the Constitution or not. But anyways, let's hear some more.
First off, like I was saying, Virginia is an extremely communist state. Okay, they don't care your situation. They don't care how much money you make.
All right, William, I wouldn't go that far. It can be unreasonable. Oh yeah, in fact, I remember a guy from Virginia. He's in, I think, Chile now, but I wouldn't say they're communists, but they're just difficult.
They only want your money. That's all they care about. First off, child support, it can be good if it's actually helping the kid. Not going to your ex-wife or your ex-girlfriend's boyfriend and building their house for them or paying for their Mercedes. It's actually helping your kid. That'd be nice, But sometimes, you change careers or you change jobs. You have a problem. There's economic problems. Not too long ago, many people didn't have jobs. People were actually going to prison for not being able to pay their child support.
Yeah, I'll make a comment on that. That's true. In general, men go to jail or prison more than women do for not paying child support. But you are seeing more and more women being ordered to pay. But generally speaking, in general, they don't put them in jail or take away their license. But that trend is probably it's probably changing now. And further on in the video, William talks about a college loan debt. College loan debt and child support can't normally be bankrupted. So you can't get out of that by going to bankruptcy. So there's a few exceptions, even for child support, and a few exceptions for college loans, but in general, you got to pay it. But let's just continue on.
Yeah, like I said, Virginia's communist, like a few other states, and
you must be talking about California.
When you have problems, they don't care. They don't lower your child support. You still have to pay it, and it's really hard to even get a court case, to review it. And you might never even see a judge one time while you're paying child support in 18 to 21 years, It's really crazy. So this is what I recommend you do, okay? First off, once your child support gets over $2,500 in arrears or in debt, they turn off your passport, okay?
All right, I want to pause it there. I thought it was $5,000, but I'll take your word for it, $2,500. That's too bad. Recently, the IRS have done a thing where if you allegedly owe more than $50,000, they'll turn off the passport too. But I just want to make a point that whether it's $2,500 or $5,000, they can turn it off. And even if you get out of the country, they can still turn it off. And then if they do that and you're wherever you are, that's where you're stuck. And usually law enforcement's obligated to arrest you and then extradite you back to the States. So do whatever you got to do to keep your passport in good standing.
So when that happens, maybe you can use your tax return, sell all the things you have. Sell the things you have, make sure your passport is turned back on, and get out of there.
All right, I'm going to pause it there. That's good advice, but I would even go further. You need to plan. If you even think you're going to get divorced, or if you even think you can't pay back your creditors, like your student loans or your credit card debt or whatever, and if you just don't have the ability to pay those off over your lifetime without really enslaving yourself, then you need to really make a plan. First thing you need to do is make sure you have a passport. Second thing you need to do, if you're going to do the residency like you're saying and leave the country, you need to do it quickly and quietly. Like, do whatever you have to do to make your wife happy, sell whatever you have to sell, do whatever you have to do, keep on working, and then on your vacation, start that process of a second residency somewhere. Central America, it can be easier. South America can be a little more difficult, but you know what I'm getting at. You're going to need capital to start over. Like in Paraguay, you need basically the FBI background check and $5,000 deposit and a health check and a few other things, I think. And you can do that when you leave the country and just basically stay there. But in some countries, you need to do this planning in advance, like the FBI background check, and you have to fly to the country. The reason I mention this is because if you don't plan on flying back, then don't worry about it. But if you can get all this stuff set up in advance, so you already have a residency set up before you get divorced, it really works out way, way better. Works out better if you have a bank account overseas, even though there's really not a lot of bank secrecy. It's really difficult to freeze an account in Latin America in most countries, even Canada. I've seen it happen in Canada, but even then it's really tough. They have to go through court to do it. And pre-planning is really important. So if you have your passport, get the ball rolling with a second residency that leads to, most importantly, that leads to a second passport, and make sure you get banking down there. And it's even better if you have like a corporate banking and a way to easily, you or your relatives can pass money into it. That way you don't need to pass money to it, and it's harder for your enemy, so to speak, to figure out that you're selling assets and transferring things somewhere else. Anyways, we'll continue.
Because you're really limited until your kid is 18 or 21, whenever your payments stop. Because before that, they're going to take how much you owe plus back pay, plus interest. So that can really screw up your life. And if you have like college loans and stuff, they might take half of your pay. They make up the rules as they're going, so they don't.
Just want to phrase it there for a second. Yeah, I've seen guys owe over $1,000. I know one guy, I think he got $200 or $300 a check, and he made maybe $1,500 to $2,000. But when you took all the taxes out and his 3 kids, I think he got $200. In some weeks he got $300. So if he did not work overtime, he did not make much. Anyways, we'll continue.
I don't care about you, or if you can even pay your rent. You probably won't be homeless, but it'll really destroy your life, your current relationships, so you don't want to do that, okay? It's better just sometimes to leave the country if you're from a communist state like Virginia. Like I was saying, you can sell your TV, your couches, everything you got, your car, because you're not going to need them no more. You're going to leave the country, alright? And I don't mean just picking a random country. Pick a country, you can get a girlfriend, a wife, a place to start a new life, right?
Yeah, that's good thinking. Pick a country, usually Latin America, because those are the easiest countries to get a residency. There's still a few countries in Latin America you don't need an FBI background check. Like I said, there's Paraguay, where you basically need an FBI background check, a health check, and a $5,000 bank deposit. That fluctuates depending on currency exchange values. Then there's Central America, like Guatemala. You just need a regular police check. And if you have a legal issue, like say you're going through a divorce or you have a DUI, there's even people now that can't get residency because of a DUI. You just get that in another county you didn't really live in. Because these countries never make you prove where you lived in the U.S. You just get one in a county or state where you don't have any legal issues. I'll just say it that way. That's one way around that. As far as getting a girlfriend, most Latin countries, it's not really that difficult. Not all, but most Latin countries, you can earn a living teaching English, so that's a good point. But you make a good point. Sell off everything you don't need anymore. Convert it into blank money orders or cash. The reason I say blank money orders is because if you're taking more than $10K, which is illegal if you don't report it, if you don't declare it when you're flying, you can just put the name of the bank and deposit that bank. You used to could do that real easy. Now it's harder to do, but you can still get away with it. And then another reason I suggest money orders, even if you put your name on it and just endorse it and deposit it in the bank, is because it's a little bit more private, but basically it's hard to figure out what you're carrying, because if you're flying inside the USA, they have machines that can detect how much money you're carrying on you. And when you're in the airport, they announce on the PA system you need to report anything over 10K. They have it posted too, and they do that because if they catch you out, they can point out on the PA system and it's posted, and then they take your money, they seize your assets. Another thing is they even do it if it's less than 10 grand, and you're not obligated to report anything over 10 grand, like say 3 or 4,000. I've seen that happen or heard about it. So you really need to be careful. So in that case, you want to go down into Mexico or Canada, but Mexico's better. And if it's cash, I wouldn't fly out of a Mexican airport, but if it's cash, I'd fly out of a Central American airport, because they don't really care as much and they can't detect it. But if it's money orders, go ahead and fly out of like Mexico City or whatever. But anyways, to get to your further destination. Anyways, let's continue.
For me, Peru was the best country, and my ex-wife, she realized that I got citizenship, and it was stupid to keep the child support on, and she needed me to sign documents, so I was able to sign away my parental rights, which I hadn't seen my kid in like 8 years because I refused to go to court to see my own kid.
That's really sad. That's a painful thing to hear, but I know of other men that's been through that. Anyhow, William makes a good point. Once your enemies, the lawyer of your enemies, or of your creditors know you have a second citizenship, not always, but most of the time they'll drop all their cases against you. Again, not always, but sometimes. But before you let them know you have that, you want to have that well underway. And that can be used as a legal tactic to get people to back down. Anyways, we'll continue with the video.
If you have a wife like that, ex-wife like that, it's really difficult because you can't talk to them rationally. You're really screwed. You just got to...
I'll pause it again. William's commenting on the crazy wife. I had that myself, but fortunate for me, I wasn't married in the U.S., and most of my assets weren't even in the U.S. Just for you guys who think Latin women and Asian women aren't sophisticated, my ex-wife, her family ran asset checks on me in both the U.S. and the United Kingdom. Fortunate for me, I didn't keep the mother load there, but that's neither here nor there. I'll just continue with the video.
Pay the payments or you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And hopefully you make a lot of money, you can pay it. But with child support, the more money you make, the more you have to pay. So, for me, the best thing was just leaving the country. My life improved, I was happier, and I definitely had more money after that.
All right, I just want to make a little point there. That's true, technically speaking, but before you even think about leaving the country, if you plan right, you'll never need to leave. Here's why I say that. If you can set up your own business and set it up into an LLC, what you can do is you can manage it so you basically don't pay more than 15 or 20% in the States as a tax thing. As another thing, your corporation pays taxes, and then it can pay you as an employee or it can pay you as an owner. But you can always manage that. So if you know you're going to go to court because you have a creditor problem, you can manage the corporation in such a way that your income is basically nothing or very little. So whatever child support the court awards you, it'll be $50, maybe $100. Just as a side, before most modern LLC laws came into being about, 10 or 15 years ago, I can't remember, but way back in the day before they had, each state had an LLC. One of my cousins, she was married to a guy, an oil man, let's just say. All his assets were in not an LLC, but a traditional type corporation. She never got a dime. Anyways, my point is, you can manage a corporation in such a way that it can invest the profits on your behalf so they're not taxable like an insurance product. That insurance product won't even have to pay you an income 5 or 10 years away. It can be managed like that. And if you know you're going to be called into court and you set up the corporation right, you can set it up so there's really not a lot of income in it. It's just making investments. Of course, the corporation will have to pay tax, but it doesn't have to distribute any profit or income to you unless that's what you want, if you control it. Another point is different states have different rules on how to shield ownership. One that I know is Mexico. You can shield the ownership from the true owners. That's about the only state in the U.S. I know of And there's states like Nevada where you can have very low tax, or even Florida for that matter. I won't get into that, but you can manage a corporation in such a way that it doesn't have a lot of income. Now, having said that, if it distributes income to you, then you'll have to report that. That's what you got to do. That's the thing. But I'm not talking about going to an online situation and giving them your credit card number to pay for an online corporation, and then you pay with your credit card, and then maybe you use your online devices to do stuff with it. Your enemies will figure that out fast. What you do is you go into the office, or use a dumb phone when you're calling your banker or your lawyer, but you basically go into the office. He or she specifically sets it up a certain way, the articles of incorporation, so you can make these moves. If you do the online, really cheap version, you advertise to everyone what you own. You have to give your own Social Security number to get the EIN number or the tax ID number. Whereas if you use a lawyer, he can use his. I'm not saying he will, but he can if he wants to. But so it'll be easier for you to hide your assets and the income and stuff like that. But of course, I'm not talking about cheating on your taxes or hiding income from your creditors. I'm talking about you using tax planning and things of that nature. Anyways, before you get married, plan on having a business and plan on buying some gold coins without a Social Security number on them, and plan on keeping your mouth shut about what you own so you can fall back on those assets. Even having a couple $1,000s in cash, $100 bills, or $200 notes. They used to have $500 euro notes. I don't think they do anymore. Or they do have them, but they're not making them anymore. But you can always run up to Canada to get euros and 200 note things, or you can just get the $100 bills. Having that and some gold coins goes a long way too to help you start over if you decide to leave the country. But with a little planning, you can build up assets and income just through companies. But anyways, if you're not willing to do that, or if you didn't do that tax planning, then one possibility is leaving the country. Maybe not the best one, but more and more nowadays that is actually the best one, because it's hard to earn income without using a Social Security number and having your income ceased and then given over to the court. Anyways, we'll continue.
I don't owe child support anymore, which I'm extremely lucky, and it really didn't matter because my ex.
Williams, he has a second passport. That's my understanding. But anyways, since he doesn't owe child support, he can never have his U.S.-based passport. He can always get that renewed, is what I'm getting at. So that's actually good. So congratulations, William. You beat the system. So many men don't. Anyways, we'll continue.
Wife and her boyfriend, they had a lot of money. I'm sure that the payments paid for their new house.
All right, I'm going to stop it right there. The only thing is I don't really care. A little bit personal information there. But anyways, let's go ahead.
You're really screwed unless you can pay an expensive lawyer, which is, again, unfair to poor people or normal.
Is there such a thing as a cheap lawyer nowadays, William? I don't think so.
People. And, when you get a divorce, most of your money's gone anyways. So for me, the best thing was just to leave. I was much happier after I left.
Alright, that's about it. I'm going to pause it there and probably end this video. So my basic points are, if you do some planning before you get divorced, you can get some savings outside of your country of birth. You can use cash or blank, or even fill in the pay on money orders. There's so many ways you can, I don't want to say legally, but get around hiding assets like, well, I won't get into it here, but an acquaintance of mine, he opened a bank account. He's Canadian. He opened a bank account in Canada, put a couple $100 in it. Then his friend in the U.S. opened a bank account, and then they swapped ATM cards. Now, you got to be really good friends to do a stunt like that. But they made an agreement where they wouldn't pass more than a couple $1,000s a month in the account. And they opened these accounts well in advance, and they were pretty seasoned bank accounts. And they got their mutual banks used to passing a couple $1,000 through them every month for like small business. And then they just swapped ATM cards. And they always kept in touch in case the bank ATM card didn't work when they're traveling overseas or whatever, stuff like that. But people you trust a lot, you can do that. That's one solution. If you have income, or if you have like $20,000 savings, and one guy in the States and one in Canada, and use your imagination, you can pick any countries to do this. But the larger the amount, the harder it is to do. But for people who have an online income and a PayPal account connected up with it, and just want to have an account that's not in their name, That's what they do. Another thing is if you're traveling overseas and you're going through Western countries, airports, and they see an ATM card in someone else's name, that's a no-no. So you got to be cautious about that. What some people do is they ship the card to their next destination, like a mail drop or a friend or whatever, or they're just really careful. What most people do is they just travel overland where you don't have to face that problem, and then if they ever fly, they're really cautious on how they handle that. You can always put the ATM card in, like I said before, the money orders in a sealed envelope with a local stamp of that country, postage stamp I mean. Most of the time they'll never open that up. But that's one thing. Another thing is, like I said before, have some gold coins and some cash. Another thing is, if you even think you're getting divorced, make sure you open up an account outside your country. Get your passport, travel. It's really hard to do. It's not easy anymore. But try to find somewhere you can do it. If you have a brother or sister, aunt, uncle you trust with your life, have them open up an account and then fund that account with money orders. Even just salting away 5 or 10 grand with an ATM card in one of your relatives' name. Now that's kind of underhanded, and some people don't think it's ethical, but as long as you're not using the account to cheat on taxes or defraud people, you can get away with that. There's a lot more to what I'm talking about, but those are some things you can do if you're willing to do some planning in advance, if you have the extra dough to either pay for a LLC or some kind of offshore entity. In Latin America, I would just suggest the SA Corporation, and the U.S. and Canada has some interesting corporate things you can do. And let's say you don't have a credit card, or you don't want to use your own, or you want to do something online. I don't really suggest that, but like if your mom or dad paid for a Canadian corporation for some damn reason and used their ID to start the bank account and then gave all that stuff to you, you could probably use money orders to fund the thing. You might have to pay a few taxes because you're putting in a lot of capital. I mean, if you are. I mean, it might be worth it if you're willing to pay the small fees and a little bit of tax you may or may not owe. Anyways, that's something to think about. That's about it for now. This video has gone on for about 22 minutes. There's a lot more you can do. There's just a few things. And mix and match with whatever, say, I'm from North America, so I think of Canada, the U.S. U.S. has U.S. dollars, Canada has Canadian dollars, and in Canada you can have a U.S. dollar account or a Canadian dollar account or both for that matter. So if you're European and next time you're in Canada, open up an account that has Canadian dollars or U.S. dollars, etc., whatever. Anyways, in general in the U.S., because of our FATCA laws and the new money laundering laws, Americans have a really tough time opening up a simple bank account. Like before it was never this hard, but now it's pretty hard. So it's pretty rare that you can open up a bank account by mail for a small amount of money. Used to be you could open up accounts for $100 or $5,000 or $10,000 at the most. Now that's almost impossible. You have to have a really large account if you can open up by mail, and you have to have references and all that kind of jazz. So the good old days are pretty much gone. So if you know you're going to have a creditor problem, get your password, do some traveling, figure out anywhere you can get a U.S. dollar-based account or a local currency account. I prefer U.S. dollars, and if you can, set yourself up an entity to do some business and shield your assets, so to speak. Anyways, just as a last-minute thing, I'm not giving any legal advice or telling people what to do. This is just my opinion. And run everything by your lawyer and accountant before you do anything, because I'm not a qualified accountant. I'm not a qualified lawyer. I'm just giving you my opinion on things. Anyways, William, thanks for the video. I look forward to you posting more videos. Have a good night there in Peru.